The man in black is back with another mystery newspaper after the intro. Hello everyone, I'm Edison Boaventura. Welcome to our channel. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. We're running a campaign to reach 250,000 subscribers. So, give us that support, help us out, and share this video like crazy. If you like it, share it with your friends, family, with everyone. So without further delay, let's check out the first news story. The first news story, it was given by an important person, right? It's Gregory Rogers, who is a medical doctor that worked in the United States Air Force and was also a high-ranking official at National Aeronautics and Space Administration, right? In the medical field. And him? Recently, now in May 2025, he gave a statement saying that he saw a flying saucer levitating, right? In the United States Air Force hangar. This revelation that he ended up declaring came after 33 years, right? Before, he said he didn't have the opportunity or the desire to talk about this subject. He even made a drawing of this craft, right? The flying saucer he claimed to have seen. It's not a terrestrial or extraterrestrial flying saucer. It was also suggested that maybe it could be a product of reverse engineering, right? Since the object had inscriptions on its fuselage indicating it belonged to the United States, this former National Aeronautics and Space Administration employee, right, Rogers? He said that this sighting would have happened in the spring of 1992 inside facilities belonging to the Air Force at Cape Canaveral, Florida, when he was still a major in the United States Air Force. And then he was taken to that hangar to see this object. And another military officer, right, ended up showing it to him and even commented like this, pointing upwards. We got this from them, right? Referring to that unidentified flying object, right? Although everything indicates that it's reverse engineering or not, suddenly putting a United States marking on a non-conventional flying object, then captured, recovered, we don't really know, we don't have details about that. And Rogers, he felt motivated to talk about this subject now motivated. Mainly because of the statements and allegations made by former intelligence officer David Grush, right, which happened there in the National Congress. And he ended up exposing the existence on the part of the government of non-terrestrial spacecraft, right? Non-conventional, non-human spacecraft, right? As they are saying, I would like to play now a part of the statement from Dr. Rogers, Gregory Rogers, who said the following quote, I know exactly what I saw that day, and it wasn't a conventional craft. It left me stunned. None of our aircraft can make those maneuvers. There's no more debate about whether UAPs are real. They are. The only thing missing is for the government to admit it. One important detail to mention is that he didn't see the craft live and in color. He was taken to this hangar and it was shown to him in a room behind closed doors. A film, right? A footage that showed some technicians in lab coats and some in special suits around this aircraft, this craft. Then suddenly it started to take off smoothly, rotated in both directions, and surprisingly tilted at a 45-degree angle. While it hovered, something impossible, with a completely unknown flight technology. That really caught Rogers' attention, didn't it? And he kept this to himself for over 30 years, and now he's made these statements. The second news is from Brazil itself and concerns the release by the Brazilian Air Force of 26 reports that were produced by people, by pilots, and that were sightings of unidentified flying objects. These 26 reports are available at the National Archives in Brasilia at Coreg, and anyone can access them. I already have a copy of each of these reports. I've already done a preliminary analysis, and what do these reports say? They mention unidentified flying objects, usually as if they were lights. Some of them have a more distinct shape. One of these reports even mentions an object shaped like a hang glider in a deep black color. And this object was stationary at 40,000 feet altitude and was seen by a pilot. And it was somewhere along the UZ-21 airway. This airway covers the regions of Pernambuco and ends shortly after Curitiba in Paraná. So somewhere along the route from Pernambuco to Curitiba, this object was seen in a very peculiar shape, shaped like a hang glider. There are other reports that mention the number of objects, from 2 to 7 UFOs that were observed. There are some reports where only a single object appears and the occurrence of luminous objects is very high, mainly with a yellowish hue there. Kind of reddish orange, but it's mostly yellowish. And they were observed in several Brazilian states. We believe that these 2024 cases are underestimated. Why? Because there were many more cases, and maybe the witnesses didn't want to report this to the Brazilian Air Force. And that's why we saw a decrease in the number of reports released compared to the 2023 reports, since these current reports are all from the year 2024. Another report, which was obtained from a sighting on July 14, 2024 near Cuiabá, talks about 7 unidentified objects that looked like stars. And they were white and also red in color. They moved at speeds far above the speed of sound, according to the descriptions. Ali, who observed the phenomenon, and they were at more than 45,000 feet of altitude. A really interesting thing, there are also reports where the traffic collision avoidance system didn't pick up anything, didn't indicate anything, as if nothing was visible there. But people were visually seeing these unidentified flying objects. Another detail in these reports that caught attention is the duration, the time of these observations in a particular report. This duration was an hour and a half, that is, for an hour and a half. The unidentified flying object was observed there by the witnesses. So it's interesting there. Anyone interested in ufology can access the Ciano system, the National Archive, and download these official reports. Now, we just have to wait until next year to see the reports that were prepared about the following year. Here, the current year is 2025. In this third news story, I wanted to show you a short video that was obtained in the southern valley of Guatemala City between Villanueva and Milpas Altas, a region in Guatemala. These images are really interesting, so let's take a look at the unidentified flying object captured in Guatemala. It appeared in several regions there, such as Barcena and the surroundings of Villanueva, among other places. So, several residents there ended up capturing these 6 white lights on video. What else suggests that it could be some kind of mothership? Paulo de Leon, who is a researcher of unidentified aerial phenomena, He ended up releasing these videos, and one specifically from Minoris Melgar, who was one of the witnesses. Now, the most interesting thing about this news is that an engineer who is also an astronomer and director of the Guatemalan Association of Astronomy, Dr. Edgar Conrado Castro, confirms it. He explained that this phenomenon observed on the night of Wednesday, May 28, 2025 over that region can indeed be classified as an unidentified anomalous phenomenon. That is, an unidentified anomalous phenomenon. In fact, I wanted to put on the screen now a quote from the astronomer Dr. Edgar Conrado, open quotes. It is an unidentified anomalous phenomenon, an unidentified anomalous phenomenon. They are everywhere now. I mean, that's really a big truth. The phenomenon is still present in various places around the planet, and from time to time, we get interesting footage like the one you just saw. The other news is about Hal Puthoff. Who is he, Hal Puthoff? He is an American physicist who participated in BESS, which was a group created by BESS. ATP, which researched unidentified flying object S, dealt with unidentified flying object metamaterials at the request of the American Pentagon. So for a while, he worked with that. And what happens now? Recently, Bruno, who is a film director, he made a mini documentary about Operation Plate, and we even published it on our channel, right here. If you haven't seen it yet, go check it out on the channel later. Look for Operation Plate. There's this mini documentary with some really interesting information. And Bruno was talking to me, saying that he at least tried to get in touch with Hal Puthoff, but it was very difficult. And then he got suspicious. Did he not want to talk? Does he only respond to requests that suit him, that he has some interest in? But so as not to just keep fueling this kind of thing, I'm going to put on the screen now a statement from Bruno, who made this mini documentary so we can understand this story involving Hal Puthoff. Let's see.
Hi, I'm Bruno Albuquerque, a filmmaker and creator of the SB Cinema Instagram page with 1.4 million followers. I recently graduated in film and television production from Fanshawe College in Canada. I produced this documentary, now on Edson's channel. Undeniable Evidence. Operation Plate includes testimony from Edson, Tom Miller of Verdade Mundial, and Schwarzer from his channel. And from my father Vladimir, who is a new witness who saw the lights from Operation Plate. But in Sierra, here in Fortaleza, that's right. During the production of the documentary, Edson informed me that Hal Puthoff, that scientist who is always giving statements in documentaries and interviews to American channels about the release of unidentified anomalous phenomenon documents, said that he had access to more than 15 hours of recordings from Operation Plate. And he asked me, since I was in Canada, to get closer to him. I tried calling him to request the 15 hours of recordings he said he had, but Edson just gave me Hal Puthoff's phone number and email. I also found out that his company's address and phone number don't exist. I called and got a message saying the number didn't exist. I found other phone numbers supposedly connected to his company as well, which also didn't exist. I called there and the message I got was that the phone didn't exist. Hal Puthoff never replied to my emails, and when I checked the building of Hal Puthoff's company location on Google Street View, the building looked empty from the outside. It looks like there's nothing there. It's as if the man doesn't exist, only serving his own interests or the interests of certain people. Edson asked me to bring this statement to help with the research, especially with Edson as independent researchers. We must listen to and follow them. I want to thank Edson for joining my film. It was an honor. I've followed Edson's work for years and had the honor of promoting the film on his channel. It was special for me. Watch Unquestionable Evidence, Operation Plate, and see you in the next film.
Honestly, Hal Puthoff's attitude is really strange. Maybe he just wasn't lucky enough to talk to him, but I don't know. I prefer to remain neutral about this. Time will tell. We know that there are some Americans who sometimes play both sides. I don't know if that's the case with Puthoff. But we know that there are some people who sometimes aren't very trustworthy. When it comes to ufology, it's unidentified flying objects. The latest news just came out in June 2025. And what was it? It was basically the outrage of a former military man who worked in the nuclear missile area at Malmstrom base, the well-known Robert Salas. In fact, I was with Robert Salas in Argentina attending an event, and on that occasion Robert Salas ended up telling me about several cases he was involved in. He was even the main character. He saw it at the moment it was happening. And in 67, over there in Montana, at that Malmstrom nuclear base, he said he saw a bright red object that hovered near a launch control capsule. And then it even shot a beam of light. This unidentified flying object shot a beam of light at the warhead, disabling 10 ballistic missiles. Intercontinental fully deactivated. They were actual Minuteman ballistic missiles, and they were deactivated by that object. But what happened now? A recent article was published in the Wall Street Journal about Pentagon disinformation, where they tried to explain this Malmstrom incident, which was an unidentified flying object incident, as something conventional. They said it was the so-called electromagnetic pulse, which is a large electromagnetic pulse generator that ended up causing some interference with the ballistic missiles, with those warheads there. Right? That was what was stated by All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, which is an office that researches UAPs, the unidentified anomalous phenomena nowadays. But Robert Salas himself was quite outraged by this kind of explanation, because there are already released documents that say exactly the opposite. So Robert Salas himself called this attitude from All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office fanciful, a fantasy. And he believes it. And he presented certain situations and evidence there that it was truly an unidentified flying object and not this so-called pen. This electromagnetic energy that would have caused this disturbance, let's put it that way. So, what do we conclude from this? ARO, that office there, which is the American Office for All Domain Anomaly Resolution. They should bring to light some more reports or reassessments of old and classic cases. Will he tell the truth? That's the big question. Will they really have any kind of transparency, or will they keep playing this cover-up game? So that's a concern we all have. And Robert Salas also made his concern about this issue very clear, which is a very serious matter. Trump wants the release of some reports. But we can see that there is a movement completely against this, so that it doesn't actually happen, or at least only happens partially. Well, those were the news I had for you today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, click the like button, leave your comments, and see you in the next video podcast live with the Black Man.